Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Hasani, and I am joined by Lakeisha Hines, that number one practitioner on our team. And we're excited to have you here this morning. Whoever joins me is number one for the day. So, welcome. Listen, it's Monday morning. We're starting a new week. We just celebrated Resurrection Day on yesterday. What an amazing
Yes.
time, I'm sure. Many of you were in church. That's the one day of the year where churches are cram packed and then they're empty the very next week. What's going on, people? Spiritual amnesia, I guess that's what they call it. Anyway, hope you had a great spring break. For those of you who are around the country who had a chance to spend time with your family, I know that we did. We had an amazing time and we're back in the saddle, ready to get it. Today, we're talking about an important topic: the long term psychological effects of infidelity. It's something that we need to discuss. It's going to be an obvious conversation for the betrayed spouse. It's going to be hopefully an enlightened conversation for the unfaithful spouse. Now, though there are some unfaithful, or I should say former unfaithful spouses who do get it and they understand the devastation, the trauma, there's some who are just oblivious and clueless and careless, and they're just numb. It's just like, get over it, move on, like just deal with
Mhm.
it. And they don't have any concept. So they can see their spouse's bleeding heart, but they don't understand it. And I've said this time and time again, Lakeisha, and would love your response to that. Like if I see you on crutches or with a cast on, I get that, right?
Right.
Because I can associate, okay, you're in physical pain. That's why you're limping and that's why you're struggling to do this, that, and the other. But if I don't see any physical evidence, like I don't get it. It's been months. Like you should be past this by now. What is this hurt and this pain that you're talking about? It doesn't register. And because for many people it doesn't, they just don't show up for their spouse where they need to.
Agreed, 100%. And I think about it also as it pertains to disabilities. There are many disabilities out there that are visible, and there are many of them that are not. They're hidden. You have a child who's suffering from some type of learning disability.
Mhm.
That's not a visual impairment or whatever. And so they're not treated with the same level of care many times as those who have visible disabilities. And so for the faithful spouse who is clearly in pain, crying, upset, all over the place, having those symptoms of PISD, which we've talked about multiple times. There's more care and concern that tends to be lended to that one. But the unfaithful spouse, unfortunately, I think many times we're thinking that, well, you knew what you were doing, you signed up for this, like you should have known that this is what was going to happen. But at the end of the day, they're not thinking about that at the time that they're making the decisions that they're
Yeah,
making. So there is a different level of care and concern that has to be there for the unfaithful spouse. It's different.
absolutely.
It's different.
Absolutely. Listen, I want to draw a quick distinction because in the title it talks about the long term, right? I want to draw a distinction between long term and permanency.
Mm,
You have a permanent psychological impact or effect, means that the pain that I'm suffering never goes away.
right.
And interestingly enough, this is something that the betrayed spouse needs to understand, that yes, you are in pain right now, but this does not have to be forever. And for most people who continue to go through the process, it oftentimes is not forever.
Right.
It may be long term, but it is not permanent. That's for both to hear when you're in the midst of the pain and it seems like there's no hope for tomorrow and the future looks bleak and dim and I just don't know if this is ever going to turn around. And many people throw in the towel, call it quits, and give up while they're yet in the midst of the process because they think that it'll never change. And
Right.
that is certainly not true. I know you've worked with countless people. You've seen the transformation.
Yes.
They had to do something to make that happen.
They definitely have to do something that to make that happen. I mean, there's work that's required on both parts. And this is one of the things that we talk about all the time with the couples is that your work is individual.
Yeah,
And it's completely different. The things that the unfaithful has to work on is completely different from what the faithful has to work on. So many times we're trying to break it down in a way that both parties will have sympathy as well as empathy for one another, helping each other to understand the pain that you both are going through because you both are in pain, but it's just for different reasons. And your recovery process is different.
yeah, it is different, and so the length of time also is different. Now, you know, statistically upwards of 2 years if you're doing the necessary work. That doesn't mean that that is the timestamp for every couple or for every
Right.
person. There are many people who have really dug in deep because they were hungry and thirsty and yearning for change and transformation, and were able to experience it much sooner. But there are those who start and stop or don't really take the work serious. And so they find 2 years later, they're still kind of struggling. They still are having challenges. And so it really, the time period is up to you. But no matter who you may be, no matter what the journey may be, it's not quick and easy. Matter of
Right.
fact, it was a couple years ago, Lakeisha, that I had. And I was just like, this is just happening too quick. Like, this is too easy. And I had to
Right.
dig a little bit deeper, and it all came out, and I realized that they were faking. They were just going along to get along,
Mm.
and it wasn't helping. It was actually making things worse. And I think you
Mhm.
have to lean into that pain and experience it in order to get through it, so you can come out on the other side.
Oh my gosh, it may be in a couple of Enneagram sevens, right? Who who want to avoid the pain, right, and just get to the fun. But can we just park there for a minute? Because I think it's valuable. Well, I think everything that you say is valuable, Sir Pettiford. But
Uh,
I think that this was really really valuable. What you just said, talking about the time frame and how many times couples will tap out before they actually get to their breakthrough. And I think that that happens with us as believers as well. We're dealing with so much on a daily basis that oftentimes we tap out before we get to walk in the fullness of whatever it is that God has for us as individuals, but especially for our marriages, because it gets difficult, it gets hard, it's painful. And one thing you said was talking about how it seems like that pain will be there forever. That's our flesh, and our flesh is weak. And unfortunately, our flesh will lend us to feel like we can't endure anymore. I can't take not one more conversation. I can't take not one more breakdown. I can't have one more conversation about your triggers. It's too much. I can't do it. Well, you know what? Yes, you can. And it's a choice. The same way you chose to cheat, you can make a choice to stand there and endure. The same way you made a choice to stay in this relationship and to work it out, you can make a choice to go through whatever comes with that. But if you tap out before you get to the other side, you miss out on a relationship that is two times, three times, four times better than what it was before infidelity ever happened. So I think I say this all the time. It starts with a made up mind
mm,
and remembering why you made the decision that you made in the first place, because you're
mm.
going to have to lean in to that decision when it does get difficult and it does get hard for you.
That is a powerful point, and I want those words to be directed to a specific group of people, those who are just starting the process. Like, I see how you can make an argument for something like that if you've been months in, but for those who just discovered it and their spouse is going through pain and they're in that season of discovery, right? That first phase. And to your point, Lakeisha, there are those partners, whether male or female. I don't have time for this. Let's get beyond this. I'm not trying to deal with these triggers. I ain't answering no more questions. I ain't gonna be called too many more names. Like, you ain't like, there's just
Right.
no they have no endurance, right?
Mhm.
They're not willing to go
Mhm.
through anything, and they don't consider the tremendous psychological, emotional, physical, spiritual, whatever relational impact that they've had on their spouse when they were out doing whatever they were doing. And listen, either you're in it or not. And that mindset is so key. Because if you don't have the right, it's just like a person who runs a marathon. If
Yes.
you have a sprinter mindset, you will quit. There's no way that a sprinter mindset will work on, what is it, 28 and a half miles, whatever a marathon is. It's impossible. So you
Right.
got to have that endurance and that stick to itivism and that willingness to get through it in order to make it to the other side. So, 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 so true. And let me just say this, because we're talking about the psychological effects of the long term effects of infidelity. I want to make it crystal clear that even though overwhelmingly 90%, 95% of the couples that we work with, they stay together, right?
Mhm.
But that does not mean, and guess what? God forgives. But that does not mean, oh yeah, oh well, they have better relationships after the work that they've done than before the work that they've done. But
Mhm.
that does not mean that there aren't going to be consequences.
Right.
There's something called the law of causation. The
Yes,
law
sir.
of causation. We're talking about cause and
An
effect.
effect.
Every cause will lead to an effect. And so, what many people are trying to do, how can I avoid the effects of my
Mhm.
actions? There is no avoiding it.
Nope.
Restoration can happen, forgiveness can happen, restoring trust can happen, but there are the natural effects of your actions. Take a look at this cause. Cause would be the catalyst, the motive, the reason, the actions. But then you have the effect. The effect would be the results, the outcome, the conditions or the occurrences produced by the cause. Now, we know that seed time and harvest is a law and
Real.
principle that God put in the earth. And
Hmm.
so there are laws that govern this earth. There are laws that govern the universe. There are laws that govern the body. There are laws that govern everything that exists in this world. But somehow we think that we can escape the natural laws when it applies to our marriage, and there is no getting around it. There's no escaping it. There's no skipping over it. You are going to have to endure it, and just know that that's a part of the process if you're committed to this process. Lakeisha, what say you?
Man, and accept the fact that your spouse will never be the same. Your spouse will never be the same. They are a completely different person. And keeping it all the way real, you're a different person, right? The unfaithful is different, the faithful is different. You're two completely different people. And there's that whole saying, it's a cliche, it's research, it's science, it's been proven that we are all products of our environment, right? We are all just who we are today is a direct reflection of all of the experiences that we've had from the time that we were born up until yesterday,
Hmm.
right? So everything that happens in our lives impacts the way we think, how we behave, everything, even our level of faith in God. Like it's all connected and it's all related. So I love when you say the stick to itiveness. Like if you're one who has given up as it pertains to your own individual walk with God or even on yourself, you said, you know what? January 1st, I'm getting in the gym. I'm going 5 days a week. I'm going hard. I want to lose 25 pounds by April. Okay, where you at on that journey? Did you give up? Did you quit? Are you one of those people who when it gets hard you tap out? Because if that's who you are, this journey right here is not for the faint. It is not for the weak, and you have to be willing to do it and to show up whether you feel like it or not. And that's the same thing with the gym, right? You got to be willing to show up and go to that gym whether you feel like doing it or not. So be ready for this process. It does work. It can work. It will work, but only if you work it.
Facts. Guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We're about to get into some of these long term psychological effects on the other side of this break. Stay tuned, be right there, and we're going to go deeper.
Hey family, Hasani and Danielle here, and I want to tell you about the Phoenix Awards Gala happening on October 7th, 2023. Couples Academy is hosting its first annual Phoenix Awards Gala, a celebration of perseverance, patience, and persistence, focused on couples who have endured and overcome significant hardships in their marriages.
Nominees of this prestigious award will have come to the brink of destruction in their marriage without giving up, and are living a testimony to what is possible when two stand as one.
This is no ordinary gala. We are honoring 5 of the most resilient couples across the U.S. and abroad. And here's the most exciting part. You get to pick our nominees. And there's more. Wear your most exquisite gowns and black tie ensembles and prepare for a 50-foot red carpet, cocktail reception, dinner, live music, and dancing. We're going to raise the roof and the standard for marriages on October 7th, and we want you to be there.
For tickets, go to couplesacademy.org/events.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to. Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
We're back, guys. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about the psychological impact of infidelity, and we're going to dive right into these points, this conversation. Before we do that, we have a couple comments that I definitely want to get to. First is from George. George says, what type, I guess even type of support groups are available, the spouse who broke the covenant? And so the support groups that we do have available, it's a 12-week program that we offer. It's called Unearthed, and that is for the women, and it is Foundry, and that is for the men. Both are going to be starting the first week of May, so it's perfect time that you're asking this question. What we would encourage you to do is just reach out to us at 678-200-8996. You can go to the website, couplesacademy.org, to find out about those programs, but they are amazing and transformational. And so what you know what, I was just talking to Daniel about this. What's great about it is when you kind of separate and isolate and put all the unfaithful in one group and all the betrayed in another group, they both miss something. But there's something powerful in such a learning experience and a journey they go on together when they're mixed, because they're learning from each other. They're understanding what their spouse has been talking about, struggling with. Like, there's a different level of insight and compassion that they gain when they're hearing each other's journey, not just the betrayed journey or just the unfaithful journey.
Agreed.
All right, another comment from Stacy. Good morning. I'm so glad you're talking about this. It's been 2.5 years. I tell him that I have to take it in steps and process each part of the why. He has zero accountability and empathy for his actions. Speak to that.
So you absolutely have to take this in steps. And, one of the things that we love here at Couples Academy is taking you through those steps. It is a process. And, it's, man, this is the part that's hard about, I think, I'll speak for myself about my job, is when I have a couple that is refusing to follow the process. Like, you show up and you say, I want change. I want better. I'm ready to do the work. I'll do whatever it takes. But when I give you a homework assignment, you don't do it. Or when I tell you that I need you to have a conversation about XYZ, you don't want to do it. Or you want to skip over steps in the process. Like, that's the part that makes it very, very difficult. But if you go through the process in the manner in which it was intended, you don't do what the other couple Hasani mentioned was fake it. You go through this authentically and do what it is that we're advising you to do. I promise you, you will be able to get through it. You mentioned something about a lack of accountability. It cannot work if there is no accountability, because when you go through something like infidelity and you're trying to recover from that, you're trying to relay a foundation. You're trying to reestablish trust. And if there's zero accountability, that gives you nowhere to grow from, because you can't trust this person, because first, they're not owning what it is that they have done. So I understand why you're having delays here. And I hope that you will watch this with your spouse, and hopefully he will hear our voices and understand that he does have to take full accountability for whatever it is that he did.
Yeah, and I agree 1,000%. My question for you would be, what has your journey been like over the last 2.5 years? What specifically have you done? Have you gone to counseling? Have you worked with an individual for your personal healing? Have you done any type of marital restoration? That would be the question. And it's not a rhetorical question. Obviously, you can't answer the question unless you respond through text. But I want to know that because, I don't know where you are in your journey. I don't know if after 2.5 years, your heart is still bleeding tremendously. You have zero trust, zero willingness to forget. I don't know where he is. And so
Mm-hmm.
we want to be able to kind of guide you through a process that can help stop the bleeding. And this is why I think many people become dismayed, and they get to the point where they're like, this is just hopeless. It's just going to be like this for the rest of our lives. Because either A, we're not doing what we know to do, or B, we don't know what to do. And in either case, you both
Mm-hmm.
suffer.
Yep.
So reach out to us, let us know how we can help you with that. But first of all, we were talking about the consequences, that everything has a consequence. And so some of the natural consequences that we know that take place when an affair occurs, it could be a child out of wedlock, it could be an STD, it could be a financial consequence, right? Because
Yes.
money has been spent or money has been blown. Obviously, the consequence of trust being broken. There's an incalculable number of things that can happen that could be a major blow to the relationship. Not that you cannot recover, you can, but those are the natural things that happen as a result. But Lakeisha, I want you to dive into the second one, which is really important: the emotional impact of the affair.
Yeah. So again, we talked about the fact that infidelity affects both the betrayed and the betrayer, the unfaithful and the faithful. But I think it's important to note, I just want to reiterate one of the things that I said, which is that you will never be the same. And the sooner you own that and accept that, the easier it will
Mm,
be. There are literally brain changes that take place. Literally, research has shown that love and drugs produce similar effects in the brain because
yeah,
of dopamine, right? And that dopamine is linked to those feelings of gratification and also pleasure, and it can be addicting. So when we experience infidelity and feelings of rejection, literally our brain chemistry may be altered. And so literally it's not only emotional that we're dealing with, but it's also chemical. It's also mental and psychological. Depression and anxiety is another one. We see this all the time, where we literally have had clients coming in where they are suicidal. They are to the point where they are feeling as if, I don't know if I can last another day because of what I have done as the betrayer. But then as the betrayed, I don't know if I can endure another day of this level of pain. So we literally have clients again who are suffering from depression as well as anxiety. And that one is a huge one, because we know we have to get in immediately and get you support, because we know that our life is for a purpose. Every single day that we have, it's a gift, and we have to maximize every day that we have. So the sooner you're able to get through this process,
yeah.
the healthier you become, and the more you're able to walk in whatever that purpose is that you have for your life. And I think, many, many times, trust is something we've talked about. You've heard this, us quote this many, many times, that trust is lost in buckets and gained in droplets, because there is a lack of trust for not only self. I don't know that I can trust my judgment, because how did I miss the fact that my spouse was cheating on me? Also, a lack of trust for that spouse who did cheat, and lack of trust in what our future will hold. Will we ever be able to recover? Will we ever be able to be in a place where we experience harmony and joy with one another? So there's just a lack of trust all the way around. And I think, again, if there are children that are there are going to be some long-term effects on those kids as well, if they are privy to what has taken place between the two of you.
Yeah, we're definitely going to step into the children's space because that's an important one. But let's go back to Stacy. Stacy says, I have done therapy. He won't go. I try to tell him to watch this. So, I've said this and I'll say it again.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is motivated by something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if whatever you've attempted to do has not worked and produced zero results, have you truly discovered the source of his motivation? I'm not going to give you any. Listen, this is what I'll say. What can you start doing that will help to motivate him? What can you stop doing that will help to motivate him?
Facts.
Am I right? Like,
Yes, sir.
you got to know your husband.
Yep.
You got to know your husband. And you have to stop approaching your husband from your vantage point, from
Mm-hmm.
your perspective, from what you think will work. You're not him and he's not you. Get inside the mind of your partner and discover his motivation and lean into that thing. Because what could have taken years to get him to finally do, he'll do that mess overnight if you know the truth. So, like, I'll just leave it there. I'll keep it general.
Well, let me just say that men often are motivated by fear of loss, and that's another one of the long-term effects of infidelity, right? They're often motivated by fear of loss. So one of the things that you said, Hasani, was what is it that you need to start doing that will motivate him, or what is it that you need to stop doing to start motivating him? And one of the things when I'm working with women many times, especially if they're the betrayed in the counseling relationship, there's a change in their self-esteem and self-worth. They often lose self-esteem and self-worth. And so then they will commit to things that they're not necessarily ready to commit to. And specifically, they will re-engage in sexual activity with their spouse before they're ready, because there's been a loss of self-esteem and a loss of self-worth. And it's like, if I don't do this, then this person doesn't value me. There's also that fear that they're going to leave if I don't do this, but you're not ready. So that actually is self-sabotage, because they know if you're into it or you're not. They know if you're feeling it or if you're not. They know if they're getting 50% of you or 100% of you. So sometimes we do have to motivate through that fear of loss, that listen, you won't get my whole heart. You won't get all of me until you create a safe space for me to give you all of my heart and all of me.
Facts. Listen, guys, are you hearing what Lakeisha's saying? Like, I want you to really get this and hear the heart of what she's saying, because this stuff works. And sometimes you get in your own way. You allow your own thoughts, your own fears, your own rationalizations to cause you to do something other than what we're prescribing. And what we are saying actually works. And, sometimes it's not that I don't know what to do. I do know what to do, but I just don't have the strength. I don't have the courage. I don't have the whatever it takes to get it done. And that's where the one-on-one sessions come in, and working with someone who guides you through it. Because at the end of the day, like the pathway to accomplish anything is simple in terms of, okay, these are the steps. Simple. I get it. But It's not always easy. And so This is why you need that help and that assistance. Listen, we're going to take one more break. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Hey guys, you're watching the Couples Academy show. Questions always come at the end. Isn't that something? Listen,
Always.
I hear you. We're going to continue this conversation tomorrow and do a part 2 because the questions are really good. Many of you are looking for guidance, and it's just like, did you hear what we just said? Did you hear what we just said? But we'll unpack it even more. We'll go a little bit deeper, but make sure you tune in tomorrow. Thank you, Lakeisha. I appreciate you for who you are and for what you do and the sacrifice that you make to be on this show. And I hope that you all got something out of this. Sit down with your spouse, watch this again on the replay, reach out to us. We have our last chance weekend. You just saw the commercial for it, but it's actually this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, April 14th through the 16th. Make sure you get in while you still can. There's still space and room. Love you guys. Appreciate you. See you in the morning for another episode of the Couples Academy Show. Take care.